Springbok Saga is proudly brought to you by Castle Lager, the taste that stood the test of time.
Welcome to the Springbok Saga. In this episode, we look at the year 2003. It was a Rugby World Cup year in Australia, but a dark year for Springbok rugby. Before the tournament even started, there was an incident at a training camp in Pretoria involving Gio Cronje and Quinton Davids.
It was the most difficult year in my career when it comes to Springbok rugby, for the fact that there was a lot of dishonesty.
Comp Stahldraht, which would create a lot of controversy, would also happen, but that story didn't break until after the tournament.
If there's maybe one thing that I regret in my whole career is that at a certain point the captaincy became a little bit too important to me. I should have maybe said, you know what, rather than eat up all this nonsense, I'll just give it all up.
I said before the tournament that it's going to be the end of my career. Last game, actually I said the final will be my last game.
The Springboks would go out in the quarter-final, and the fallout of an unhappy year would claim officials such as Silas Nkununu and Riaan Oberholzer, and coach Rudolf Stroili would also stand down. Brian van Rooyen would accede to the presidency of SA Rugby.
We have sent out a message to the world that we're taking responsibility on it. So if it doesn't work, don't fire the coach, fire us.
2002 already looked like the Springbok star had begun to wane, and it ended, of course, in that massive loss against the English, 53-3. 2003, more dramatic in many ways, and of course the English were also in our sights for the World Cup, but I get ahead of myself.
You're absolutely right, Colo. You know, that 53-3 came as a tremendous blow to Springbok rugby, and England were in our pool in Perth. And it was again a high road, low road scenario. But before we embark on that route in Australia, the first tests of that year were against Scotland, one in Durban and one in Ellis Park. Corne Krige was injured, and that resulted in Joost van der Westhuizen reassuming the captaincy. And look out for Ashwin Willemse, who makes his debut.
So Willems fans but Van Heeren experienced that spine-tingling feeling as they run out to the reception of this crowd. The rugby league player, Townsend, out wide for Bruce Douglas. Now chance here as now Scotland get in. Goes into the line out and has to be thrown to him if he moves in there. Well, that's low and accurate by Louis Kuhn. Townsend, Henderson, Townsend, with a loop one that goes astray. Logan, now they have to make sure they're tackles, but they've let oh, look at that! Can South Africa retain it? Stefan de Blanche gives chase, and that has curled in beautifully. Good kick by Louis Kuhn, latched on and wouldn't let go, but there's a... Well, will that hold its line? Yes, it does. Hines is there again. Worked out now to Henderson. Oh, Henderson's nearly over. Here goes Patterson. Scotland with a wonderful try. Matfield. Again swamped by blue jerseys. Picked up by Bands. Penalty to South Africa. And Louis Kuhn gets it over the crossbar. That's going to be a penalty to Scotland. Well, I think he's going to give him a yellow card.
Well, it is a professional foul. He doesn't really have much of an option there.
Well, Chris Patterson has restored the lead to 10. Louis Kuhn, they need to move it wide quickly. Halstead, Snyman, to Blanche, Stefan to Blanche. Try for Stefan de Blanche. Well, Well, the charge came, but it didn't affect Louis Kuhn's aim at all. To Blanche. There's a loitering runner. Kick. But it's ducking in and over. Need to loosen up. Van der Westhuizen and Gerba. Good defense by Mauer. And it struck the upright. Can you believe it? Here goes Hendrik Gerba. Willemse is in there. Boom, cleans out. They need to get the ball quickly. But Louis Kuhn, Victor Matfield, the pass out. And it's Jimmy Halstead, the hometown boy. Mouth when he struck that penalty. He's now kicked the conversion. The referee, Mr. Joel Judge, says that's the end of the game. One would say it a rather hollow victory for South Africa in a way. South Africa bash away at that line. Van der Westhuizen, Kuhn, wide for Yper. It's been intercepted. Now the chase is on. Will they make it here? It looks like Scotland are going to score against all the odds. It's a wonderful interception by Craig.
They've had points against them twice.
Well, it's Taylor and... Well, the same technique all the time. This time it works for Louis Kuhn. Still trying to loosen it up. Louis Kuhn. Little drop kick by Louis Kuhn. Turned immediately. South Africa catching up. Back before Kenny Logan. First touch of the game. The experienced Scottish left winger. Gerbe is there for South Africa, but it just eludes him a bit. He won't be put off by the boos as it goes straight over the crossbar. It's heavily dumped on the halfway line, and it's a penalty to South Africa for the try scorer holding on. Well, it's another pinpoint kick by Louis Kuhn. The tight head, he finds Taylor, the number 8, Scottish Player of the Year. It's a high tackle. He too is methodical, and it works for him as well. They need to, well, Marius Yper is also in their penalty to South Africa. Louis Kuhn quick to take the penalty. Van der Westhuizen has to commit himself and does so beautifully. Now can he create something for them? Willemse, lovely pass to Van der Westhuizen. To Blanche is flying on the inside. Stefan to Blanche. Nashville Willemse. Well, that's a high tackle. Referee has picked it up. They'll get the penalty if they don't get the advantage. He's kicked him many times at Ellis Park. Easily has the distance. Craig Douglas. Penalty. Chris Patterson is dead on the target again. Vandenberg bursts away. Van der Westhuizen, well, look at that, just said, I'll take the penalty. Long at the back of his run-up. Smooth and accurate. Red path. Craig saw that he had nowhere to go there. Works it back on the inside to one of the replacements. Penalty to South Africa. Most penalties kicked by a South African in a test match is 6 by a whole host of players, and Louis Kuhn equals that.
Dan, not great results against the Scots, but the Argentinians were on their way. And in Port Elizabeth, I'm pretty sure that the Boks thought they had a good chance to put in a great result.
Well, history shows that we beat the Pumas quite well, but this test turned into a troublesome one for the Springboks. And if it hadn't been for a late try by Brent Russell and some fantastic goal kicking by Louis Kuhn, we might have been in even more trouble and given the Pumas their first ever victory over South Africa. And I must say, the Argentinians, they thought they'd been cheated that afternoon.
That's one thing that Argentina have done well in the past. Charge down. Davidson's got a chance. He's going to pass inside. Donny Katsia's got the try. Lovely strike that from Quesada. So Springboks have got back in enough numbers now. Oh, wonderful play that by the Pumas. They just took the ball up. Taken back in field. They don't mind which way they pass it. Here comes Rolando Martin. And now just watch this. He has another chance. The Pumas are going to score again. This will be Piosek. It's a good variation, but you've got to hold on to possession. Doesn't change his routine at all. Where does their support come? Here it comes now! Another try of Beckening! Now they've got numbers. Brent Russell, surely he's going to get it. And runs to get it right under the uprights. Referee waits. Was there a knock-on? There will be a penalty. Will it go straight? Yes, it will. He's done it. You have to feel very sorry.
Felt through the whole game. We didn't deserve to lose this game. We made all the play, and they just worked off our mistakes. But we knew they were going to do that, before the game, and I'm just very, very happy that we could pull a win at the end there. It means a lot to the team, and I'm sure it means a hell of a lot to the public.
Then on to the Tri-Nations then, and 2 matches at home, first up against the Australians and then against the All Blacks. And in that first test match, the Springboks really did flatter to deceive.
Yeah, there were signs of good things to come because we beat the Wallabies at Newlands, but the next test was against the All Blacks at Loftus Versfeld. And as Hugh Bladen would say, it was a shocker.
A good ball for Gregan. Gets it back. Matt Burke has popped it over. But now Jaco van der Westhuizen got hurt when he went up for that high ball, and Brent Russell, he was in at full back. Can Australia just last out? Van der Westhuizen again. Kuhn and Russell! Wonderful ball up by South Africa. Gregan flatly. Rogers, Saylor, Wendell Saylor gets the first try for Australia. And a penalty to South Africa. Well, it curve in. It's another magnificent kick by Louis Kuhn. Below the knees, the guy's going to fall down. Well, that's flying straight through and over the crossbar. Can he get away from the men? Yes, he can. From both their centres. He's opened it up for David Barry. He needs to look on the outside. Brilliant pass. Russell, can he get it on the inside? Here goes Stefan de Blanche. This could be the try of the season. It's Victor Matfield.
Halfback, don't be it.
Well, it's another penalty. I mean, there's no way that ball was out. It's Phil Waugh. Phil Waugh is over the line, and the referee says try. Good defence again by Australia. Good ball for Kuhn. Well, it's turned over. Well, again, it's a good-looking strike, and it's over by Delport. South Africa should have made more of that. I thought it might have gone forward. It's a penalty.
But he's certainly in front of the ball.
Yeah, another superb kick. Once more, Gregan, flatly. Burke, Bucky's Buerta slip. And here goes Joe Roth. Try Australia. Well, there is great celebration here. As you can obviously feel, I think Steve Walsh...
I hope this is going to give our team the belief that we can do well this year and in the Tri-Nations and in the World Cup. And also, the public out there didn't believe in us, and we wanted to show them that we can, and I'm very proud of the guys today.
Herbert Baker Buildings, Union Buildings provide a magnificent backdrop as we approach Securicor Loftus for this, just the 4th test that South Africa have ever played against New Zealand at this magnificent stadium. If you weren't here with us earlier, we can tell you that it's a wonderful Highveld day, and we await the second Tri-Nations game. The referee saying advantage to South Africa. Van der Westhuizen climbs in to try and get the ball. A huge maul that. Well, he didn't connect it quite as well. Straight through the middle. They're inside the South African 22. Spencer, Carlos Spencer will score. Van der Westhuizen, Kuhn decides to go for the drop. He's poked it forward and over the crossbar. Down the middle of the field, Spencer again. Held up by Kuhn, but offside. Well, that's a good comeback by Spencer. That is straight through the middle. Divine, Spencer. Whitefoot, Major. Snyman has to make the tackle. He offloaded to Doug Howlett, whose strike rate continues. But here goes Rokothoko, offloads. Look at the offload of the All Blacks. Russell, oh look at the referee says play on, it's Rokothoko. Well, advantage right in front of the post. Going forward ball, Spencer waiting for runners, Collins, Umanga, Rokothoko try, Santon. Willemse in there, and Ashwin Willemse gets a well-deserved try. Marshall, Spencer, wonderful pass to Brad Thorne, and nearly another one to Major. Play on, says the referee. And Howlett gets the try. Marshall, they're lining up on the outside. Major is in the open. Major could go all the way. Major has gone all the way.
You know, we started the game like a house on fire and gave them 1 or 2 soft tries early in the game. And they're extremely skillful side, and they punished us every time we slipped a tackle. And I'm definitely not proud of that scoreline. Hard work lying ahead.
Well, Dan, the Aussies had really not looked that sharp in the first Tri-Nations test, but now on the road and off to Brisbane, and it was a completely different kettle of fish.
Well, Kola, it's a test that we should rather forget. There were enough cards to wallpaper your living room, plus some sightings and accusations against the Springboks that didn't go down very well. But judge for yourselves.
To the South Africans, Davidson in the team in place of Van der Westhuizen and Louis Kuhn, away for the newcomer. Beautiful tackle in midfield by Elton Flatley. That's a great start for the Boks. Smith, Gregan, back in field, Kefu. Gee, that's great Springbok defence. Defence. Can they hold on? Wide ball. Van Niekerk. Strength and pace, but picked off. Muller. And the pass has gone forward. And he's on target again. Davidson, Louis Kuhn. Now the Springboks go wide. But a tall pass in midfield. Had a chance. Rogers scores the try that puts the Wallabies in the lead. Davidson. Louis Kuhn with an attempted drop goal. Collapsing the maul. Superb strike. Sailor is hovering on the right with Nathan Sharp.
Playing advantage.
Now a penalty is forthcoming. So Robbie Kempson takes a 10-minute holiday here at Suncorp. Australia are out by 13 points.
Try is on here.
Kefu.
What a reward. If ever a player deserved a reward, it's Phil Waugh.
Not too many happy memories from Brisbane, and the Australians certainly got on the bandwagon. Eddie Jones had a lot to say about the Springboks, and it really, really didn't do Springbok rugby any good.
No, Kola, you're quite right. Eddie Jones orchestrated that one. The Springboks thought that the whole thing had been settled with a handshake in the dressing room, and they were quite surprised when Brendan Cannon turned up with a bite mark at the press conference. So there was great unhappiness. Of course, the upshot of that was that the Springboks were now absolutely branded as the thugs of world rugby, and it's something quite hard to get rid of.
It was a bit of an era where things went wrong for South African rugby. And you know, I don't regret ever being there in that era. I think it made me a stronger person. But yes, I did go through a lot of incredibly difficult times in South African rugby, and a couple of losses that still haunt me to this day.
The next test, of course, was in Dunedin. very much improved performance, a performance that maybe showed that the Springboks were coming back ahead of the Rugby World Cup. And one man who will never forget the test match is Richard Bands, who scored arguably the greatest try by a prop forward in the history of Springbok rugby.
From the 22, Marshall delivers to Major, stabs it through. Here come the runners. Rocket Boko. Now Van der Westhuizen. Here's Bands straight up the middle. Big Richard Bands. He's got to have a go at Spencer. Get out of the road. Bands. Oh, what a great try. That's one of the best tries you'll ever see from a prop forward. Superb. Setting it again for Van der Westhuizen, and they get the penalty. I think he forgot for a moment.
Which was smart because the ball's in still play.
We're going back over here, guys. No mistakes. Spencer lands another penalty, his fourth tonight.
I can't be proud of a loss, but I am, I'm happy with the way the guys dug deep, and we were in this test match all the time. We just didn't use the opportunities and finish them off.
Well, we were wooden spooners in the Tri-Nations. Really not great build-up to World Cup, but it was then time for the Boks to get together, get into camp and start preparations, eh?
Yeah, Kola, there were positive signs in the test in Dunedin that the Springboks could be competitive in the World Cup. But then came the Gio Cronje, Quinton Davids incident at a training camp in Pretoria, and that completely disrupted the preparations. South African rugby was plunged into conflict last week by a race row that broke out around the heads of lock forwards Gio Cronje and Quinton Davids. Following allegations in a Cape Town newspaper last Thursday that Blue Bull Cronje had refused to share a room with Western Province's Davids, SAFU released a press statement in which it was stated the union was investigating allegations of racism against lock Gio Cronje following an incident involving fellow player Quinton Davids during the Springbok training camp in Pretoria, and that it had been agreed that Cronje be immediately removed from the camp pending an investigation. The statement added that SAFU was satisfied that team management had acted correctly in dealing with the matter. The investigation found that disciplinary proceedings against Cronje based on acts of racism were not warranted or justified. The SAFU statement added that should further evidence or information reveal a breach of conduct by Cronje, the matter would be re-investigated and the necessary disciplinary action taken. On Saturday evening, the 30-man Springbok team to take part in the Rugby World Cup was announced, and neither Cronje nor Davids were selected, while the Springbok team's communications manager, Mark Keohane, today resigned in protest at what he termed the ongoing prejudice in South African rugby.
And a credit to the side, it could have pulled our team apart in the last 2 days, and the guys have really stuck together well, and they've shown what a team is made of. It's really stuck together and shown that we can go forward with this team. And I think, of course, teams are diverse in culture and diverse in many ways, but that we believe is our strength, and we're going to stick together and we're going to build this team into a massively strong team.
Given the history and the background of our country, racism still is there, remnants of it, lots of it, among society as a whole. And the only thing I would want, which I'm getting from the team manager, to understand, and he's given me that the team trains together, the team is working together as a unit. And as the minister responsible for sport, I think the responsibility that I have is to say to the coach and the manager, go and take that team to the World Cup to represent this country.
Tola, as you can see, both players were then left out of the squad for Australia, and the team was named and we were ready to go. The Rugby World Cup has become one of the greatest sporting events in the world of sport. Let's take you back in history and show you why this name, William Webb Ellis, was significant.
The year was 1823 at rugby school in England. A 16-year-old pupil named William Webb Ellis was on the close with about 100 other students playing football when the pig's bladder rolled his way. Displaying a fine disregard for the rules, he picked up the ball and ran with it.
Most people have heard of William Webb Ellis, and of course the World Cup is named after him. But not as many people know of the importance of the pig in the origin and development of the game. Because if we hadn't had pigs, we probably wouldn't have had a rugby ball to play with in the first place. The first balls that they used for games of football, which has been played in this country probably since the medieval times, were almost certainly made from just a pig's bladder that would have been filled with either paper or straw and kicked about in the street. Still today, on holidays, normally on Shrove Tuesday, there are a few places left in the British Isles where a game very close to the original game of football is still played through the streets. If you're able to see the photographs here, you can see the precautions that shopkeepers have to take barring their windows because of the incredible scrum that takes place in the games that are played on that Shrove Tuesday, using a ball similar in shape to this one, which again is about 4 pounds, 4 or 5 pounds in weight. And to say that it's a free-for-all is probably understating the case. And it was from street football games like that that different schools in Britain started to develop their own games with a few more rules. And at rugby, they were perhaps lucky that they had a grass field to play on, and therefore they were able to develop a game that had quite a lot of physical contact. They would have gone in with their pig's bladders and said, can you make us a ball that's going to last longer? And so the Gilbert match ball was born.
Which I've always found is the best. You know, we've tried various things over the years, from camel to kangaroo and pig, but cowhide was always the best. Roughly, from receiving it from the works and stitching it, will take me about an hour to put a ball together. But obviously it'll take an awful lot longer to sort the leather out from the hide itself. I have made approximately 60,000 over the years, which is probably the record. In fact, I myself used to make a lot of balls for South Africa, the 8-panel Springbok ball.
The launch to unveil the new high-tech kit to be worn by the Springboks in Australia later this year got off to a rousing start at the Sandton Square in Gauteng. Claire Johnson and Jeff Malaleki had the Springboks mesmerised on a chilly Saturday evening before the big moment. Led by captain Corné Krige, some of the players, with one eye on a modelling career, showed off the green and gold, an alternate strip of white to be worn at the 2003 Rugby World Cup. The new kit has incorporated the latest in sports technology and is customised to suit each individual player and his position.
Yeah, it's a new thing. I think it's the new age. Yeah, I think it's much more elusive, like they said. And then they did really think of our forwards as well. I think they put in a thing for our tummies and everything. So, yeah, they thought of everything.
It's not heavy at all. It's not going to absorb sweat at all. So, you know, if you're carrying a heavy jersey around for 80 minutes and you do a lot of running on the field, you know, obviously it will make a difference. So, you know, looking forward to playing it.
Before their departure to Perth, the Boks attended a farewell dinner on Thursday evening at the Sandton Convention Centre.
We have focused on building and growing a team spirit that will carry us in the good times and that will thrive and help us in those bad times when it's really going tough, as we went through in these last few weeks. I want to leave you with a few words from a team chant that when times were really, really tough for us, many, many miles from here in the bush somewhere, very tired, didn't have a lot of sleep, and very dirty because it hadn't bathed for a few days. And we came up with a song. The song goes as follows: our blood is green, it's Springbok green. So come along and sing the song. Ladies and gentlemen, I know your blood is green, and I know you support us, and we will make you proud.
SA Rugby were also busy getting the Rugby World Cup message out to the communities.
We've got an extensive campaign that we've been running right through various mediums, from television to radio to print, right through to events. And part of the events that we're doing, we need to get to the hearts of the community to get the whole nation behind the team.
Look, there's no ways we're going to change the way we play. We always want to play physical, but you know, we definitely want to keep it within those boundaries and within the law. And we've worked really hard on our discipline. Part of our training has been our discipline. And you know, all along we've said that we want to be a disciplined side. And if any person in this squad steps out of line, you know, he will be dealt with, either by the team or by the officials, as was the case in the Brisbane Test.
great lovers of sport, and we are delighted to join the lovers of sport and lovers of rugby from around the world in this great competition. And in that spirit, I have great pleasure in declaring the Rugby World Cup of 2003 officially open.
The Springboks, Dan, began, of course, against Uruguay, and Joost van der Westhuizen, wasn't he a marvel yet again?
Yeah, and I think Joost had decided he would set the example. He scored a hat-trick of tries, his second hat-trick for the Springboks, and funnily enough, those 3 tries would be his last in the green and gold jersey, giving him a record of 38 tries. Another significant thing about the game against Uruguay, it was the debut of Jacques Fourie and Dani Rousseau, 2 players who would play a role in the Springbok Saga going forward.
They've been the world champions on 2 occasions, in soccer that is. But hard times have fallen on their football team, and rugby is even worse off. Most of the players are amateurs, and to top it all, they faced the daunting task of an opening match against former world champions South Africa. The Boks won't have any sleepless nights over Diego Aguirre's men.
We're looking forward to our game against Uruguay, and hopefully, in the way we play, we'll show that time has been well spent.
According to organisers, rugby's popularity in Western Australia is growing. Approximately 18,000 tickets have been sold for Saturday's match between South Africa and Uruguay, and it is expected that the remaining tickets will be snapped up soon.
See van groen en goud, so 23,000 mense wat in perfekte weersomstandighede gaan kyk na Suid-Afrika se eerste aanslag op Wêreldbeker 2003.
Who refereed South Africa earlier in the year. Good line-out work by Victor Matfield. Good to counter shove this by the tough Uruguayans, but the South Africans break away. Joe van Niekerk, look at this! He hasn't scored this year, and now he scored within a minute of the game starting by South Africa. The pace is good. Here goes Joe van Niekerk. Ashwin Willemse always manages to get through a tackle or two. And it's, oh, look at that! Look at that, Van der Westhuizen. Now at the back, Matfield is driven forward by Botha. Van der Westhuizen has 3. Ball now Neil de Kock. Greef is giving chase to this one. Menchacha goes. No, it's in fact Aguirre. Werner Greef was up in time. I think it's a try.
I enjoy it. You could see the guys enjoyed it out there. We still got a lot of work to do for next week, but luckily we're in the World Cup now. First one is by now.
Driven forward by Botha. Van der Westhuizen has 3.
Yeah, I did. But the only record when it comes to hat-tricks that will stay was I'm the only player to ever score a hat-trick in the old coat of arms. So there are no more coat of arms. But it was nice, Also, it was against Uruguay. It wasn't the best of games, but we had fun, and it will always stay in the back of my head.
Do you think that we had far too much focus on beating England in Perth rather than winning the Rugby World Cup?
I was concerned. I was really concerned about that beforehand, and I did mention it to Rudolph and said, we're putting names on tackling bags, and our focus is England, because if we beat England, we had the easy route, which was Wales in the quarter-final, and we always knew that if we don't beat England, we hit New Zealand. But I think you got to gun for your first option, but be prepared that if it doesn't happen, you can still beat New Zealand, and New Zealand aren't unbeatable, and France have shown that in 2 World Cups. We were ready for that game, and I tell you what, out of all the games I played against England, that was probably the closest that we got to beating them, because we had them rattled badly. I remember the guys swearing at each other, moaning at the referee. They were rattled big time, because we were in their face, we were playing some decent rugby. And then on the unfortunate charge down from Louis Kuhn, and that turned the game for them, and then Johnny Wilkinson won it with a couple of drop goals. But not a lot of people know that Louis' wife was actually hijacked that week in Joburg, and she was pregnant at the time, and a gun was held to her head or something. So it was a big week for him, and I felt so sorry for Louis after the game. It wasn't his fault, we could still have won the game if we'd gone more points ahead, But on that day, I think England just showed that the experience, when it really counted, came through.
Dan, the last time the Springboks had faced England was really not a memory worth remembering, at least not for the Springboks. And here they were yet again, this time in the World Cup.
Yeah, and it was the big game of all the pools. You know, it was the only one where two of the big nations were matched against each other. We were playing England in Perth. Rudolf Stroili had a mantra going into the game saying, "We'll see you in Perth." Well, there it was finally England against South Africa in Perth. We lost the game, but I thought the Boks gave a pretty good account of themselves.
They're going to use the sledgehammer approach, South Africa. The crowd's happy. Now he comes inside. Big clean out from Willemse. Ben Cohen sized it up well. Bezuidenhout. So can Louis Kuhn make it 3-all? The crowd gives you the answer. England are really cramping up on the line-out throw.
See England here, they have two players, Josh Lucy and Mike Tyndall, right across on the right-hand side.
This is Wilkinson's second attempt. How good is that?
Campaign.
Turnover.
Oh, there we go.
Corne Krige. South Africa now. A chance to go up a gear as we close on half-time. Van Niekerk. Van der Westhuizen to Bezuidenhout.
South Africa need to go wide now.
They have their chance. Kuhn. De Vetberry. Quick hands needed. Delport. But a man was tackled without the ball. And he doesn't disappoint.
Well, right in there was Lucy. The referee said South Africa were offside. And England with 3 in the lead. Referee waiting for advantage. Straight in front of the post. Penalties in Bloemfontein. He's kicked 4 tonight. England lead by 12-6. Van der Westhuizen. Kuhn. Oh, there's trouble here for South Africa. This is real trouble. Is it Greenwood? It is Greenwood. It's converted by Wilkinson. To miss tackles like that. Bracken, Wilkinson. That's, I think, the ball game. Bracken, Wilkinson could kick another drop here. He has. He's killing them with the boot. And the boot ahead is killing South Africa. The kicks ahead. They've had a kick charge down.
If you want to be world champions, you've got to beat any side, and I think we showed today we can compete against anybody. So, it is a tough one for us, but we're going to keep our heads up and keep going.
Yeah, it was a tough game, and it could have gone differently if they kicked their goals in the first half.
After Perth, it was off to the headquarters of the Rugby World Cup in scenically spectacular Sydney. The Boks' next game was against lowly Georgia, but it was the first occasion that John Smit was handed the captaincy of his country.
I suppose it's a dream come true for any South African that's been born with sort of Bok blood in him. So, it really is it's an amazing thing. It's an honour. There have only been 51, I've been told. So, it really is an honour, and I'm going to be a hell of a proud captain on Friday and make sure my troops come through.
Yeah, it was an incredible experience, and the first time that I managed to be given, the responsibility of captaining South Africa, and quite happily so against Georgia, because I was nervous as it was, and if it had been against a country that had been giving us a hiding every now and again, that would have made things even more difficult.
And the game also produced a debut for Skalkberger Jr., who was able to celebrate the moment with his dad, Groot Skalk, who was a Springbok in the 80s.
It's 'n wonderlike geleentheid, en dit voel soos gister wat ek in 84 my eerste toets gespeel het. En ek weet waar ek deur is, en ek dink hy gaan deur dieselfde, en dis net wonderlik dat 'n mens vir jou land kan speel, en ook vir Suid-Afrika, en ek en Mara, my vrou, is baie trots op hom.
Vir my is die groot ding maar net om my eerste toets agter die blad te kry, en ouers is 'n bonus, en ek kan net nie wag om op die veld te gaan nie. Ek weet ek wag nou al 8 weke hiervoor, en ek dink as jy mens op daai veld af weet, is daar nie gedagtes oor ouers en sulke goed nie, maar ek seker hulle sal baie trots wees.
Big moment for John Smit. He deserves it. He's really one of those guys who is one of the leaders in the team. He always stands up to be counted. Gave out very quickly to Farid de Kock. And here goes Donnie Rousseau for the first try. Well played, the big man, to South Africa again. Here goes Werner Greef. Derek Hougaard gets his first try. There's now the crowd really getting behind the Georgians as they drive towards the line. They've got it over.
Joe van Niekerk leaving the field. Young Skalkberger makes his debut.
Big moment for Skalkberger to come onto the field. De Kock, flat for John Smith. He gets it out to Hougaard. Wide for Botha. Double around. This will be a try for the big man. His second try in Test rugby. Supporters would have wanted them to do. Berger, Skalkberger. Terrific moment for the South African under-21 captain. Debut try.
Brisbane on the sun coast of Australia was the next stop off for the Springboks, and their opponents, Samoa, were being talked up after an impressive performance against England. But their coach, legendary All Black flank Michael Jones, tried to keep his team's feet on the ground by praising the strength of South African rugby.
South Africa is right up there with the England in our minds, and we have a huge amount of respect. And if anything, it's going to be a lot more difficult because we tried things that we hadn't been trying, and now South Africa has seen what we do. So we're not looking too far past this week.
South Africa is not is another tough team. He's one of the best team in the world rugby, and we have a lot of respect for those guys. And we're looking forward to that game because it's a decider.
Coming! And
We will be prepared. We know how to play against Samoa. We've played against them in the past, so looking forward to it.
Yes, there's a lot been said about the tackling methods. There's a lot been said about the style of play. But obviously, the better the Samoans, the better to bring out of us. And if we stick to the basics and worry about our own game plan, that won't matter.
Yeah, I think it's become a very vital game for both sides. It's now become an extra quarter-final because it's a knockout game for both teams. So a lot of emphasis on this game, and it should be a cracker.
Bezuidenhout. Van der Westhuizen has also found space. Now he's got Joe van Niekerk. This could be the start of the game. Brilliant try. Joe van Niekerk set up by the veteran Joost van der Westhuizen. Van der Westhuizen, Hougaard, drop kick attempt. He turns. He likes it. So does the ref. They just need to pass a little bit quicker, and here go the Samoans. But it's Hougaard who bursts away. Just needs to control. Derek Hougaard! Tight 5 there, penalty quickly taken. Van der Westhuizen needs to find some support. Oh, dear me, I think Derek Hougaard's going to stay down. Derek Hougaard, I must tell you, sadly, is still down.
He seems to be all right, but it was a bit of a hostile pass from Joost.
You can't do that. You cannot do that against these guys. Now a chance for Rasmussen. And that's a good tackle by Barry, and beautifully picked up by Ashwin Willemse. Ashwin Willemse, go for your life. Ashwin Willemse has worked away from them. Wonderful, wonderful try. De Kock. And that's a lovely breakout by Neil De Kock. Van der Westhuizen, De Kock. That dances over for the try. That's try number 8 for South Africa. This is the final moment of the game as some lunatic runs on and tackles him. He could end up in Chucky for that. The Springboks are running over to make sure that Louis Kuhn is okay. But some idiot has run onto the field.
Very happy with the performance.
Yeah, it was awesome to score the try, and after that tackle I'm still breathing, so that's a good sign.
Absolutely had no defence. His arms were in the air and he hit him straight on the chest.
The Australians were determined to show off their country during the World Cup, and the Springboks quarter-final against New Zealand was set in the cultural capital of Melbourne.
The winner of this game between us and New Zealand has got a good chance, because I don't think anybody's rating us at the moment.
They're really impressive. Very strong up front, and they certainly showed against Samoa that they backed that up, with some fine displays by the backs as well. So very impressive.
To say that New Zealanders are jittery is probably a bit of an understatement. They're very nervous, and the survival kit thing is a reality, because if the All Blacks lose this quarter final, in 1999 there were real tears when John Hart's side lost. This would be an absolute catastrophe.
Advantage to the All Blacks. Marshall is wide to Mulina, and it'll be a penalty to the All Blacks. Well, McDonald puts the All Blacks in the lead. Continued that drive, and it's a Smith. Can he keep his cool? He's kicked it over. Collins, good pressure from Van der Westhuizen. Now Rousseau, Spencer steps inside him relatively easily, and he's got away. Now this should be points here for the All Blacks. It's a run-in coast for McDonald. This is great ball. Hougaard, Barry decides to just go at that gap, and it's a great defence by the All Blacks, and it's a penalty. And so the kick by McDonald is on target. The flags go up, and it's taken. That's surely offside. Good Phillips under pressure from McCaw. I think the referee missed something there. This is an important kick. Derek Hougaard is up to the moment. The flags are up, and they trail by 7 points. The referee almost went for the duel. You see Major has dashed it through. Steady scrum. Smith, Van der Westhuizen, Hougaard, and that's a little off late to Barry. Lovely little play there by Derek Hougaard. Penalty, South Africa. 50-point mark in Test rugby. He's done the job again. Mialamu, and Mialamu's broken the tackle. Mialamu will score here. Marshall decides to go that way. It's a penalty to All Blacks directly, whereas the South Africans are making the mistakes as McDonald kicks the penalty. Pressure come. Ruben Thorne is this side of the scrum. It's picked up by John Smith, who's immediately swamped, and it's turned over. Spencer, beautiful pass. Rocket Foko. Number 9 and number 5, Van der Westhuizen. Look at Joost Van der Westhuizen. That could be the end of a great international career. Thoroughly deserved winners. It's a very disappointing end to this tournament for the Springboks.
I will say.
Tola, the Springboks plane had hardly landed at Jan Smuts Airport when the Kamstaldraad bomb burst.
Yeah, Dan, what the hell? We might as well level the playing fields. Well, there you go. Kamstaldraad, definitely worth remembering.
The nation woke up to big headlines last Sunday morning. Box trained at gunpoint, naked players forced into freezing lake. The report set off a countrywide debate that's been raging throughout the week. But what really happened at that camp?
There were personal agendas. Why the thing was totally pulled out of proportion. It was dishonest, I believe. Until today, you know, there are a lot of people that actually held it against me, and like Mr. Jan Rupert, I mean, he truly believed that I was involved in uplifting Kamp Staldraad. I never was. All I wanted to do was to show the truth.
Management did not turn to the traditional sources when they decided to include this training module. Instead, they used Adrian Heinz, an ex-member of the police task force. Why did they have to take their clothes off?
When you're naked, all your pretenses sort of fall away a little bit. So when everybody's naked, it sort of leveled the playing field. To remove all prejudice and different cultural backgrounds and racism, if there were any. And thirdly, to try and stimulate the natural pride and passion to be a Springbok.
Now you've got to look at it in perspective. We started with planning for the World Cup already last year. We did also involve the Sports Science Institute. We involved a lot of professionals and consultants. And the need was there from the players to do team bonding and team building. And that was only 4 days in the whole year of World Cup preparation. And like I said, there was no injuries. They basically came out of that camp much fitter, physically tougher, and mentally much harder.
Staldraad, as bad as it looks on TV and as little as it did for us as a rugby team, wasn't the worst thing in the world. I mean, I think if I speak to any of my brothers and my fathers that went to the army, you know, they would have said, well, you know, that's what we did for 2 years, let alone 3 days. The sad thing is that we weren't going to an army camp, we were going to the World Cup.
Well, the English did it the same kind of training with the SAS. You know, in the past, the national team did other exercises.
Kamp Staldraad and everything that went with that World Cup, and obviously the Geert Cronje and Quinton Davids incident, all those things added so much pressure. And what had happened the year before, the fact that we'd lost, you know, by a massive margin to England, and there were huge allegations of foul play. So all those things sort of rolled into that World Cup. I caught the back end of the Nick Mallet era, as I said. I sat on the bench against England that game. We were about to beat the world record for the most consecutive wins, and we lost to England at Twickenham. And that was sort of the turn for Nick Mallet, really, if you think about it. And then I had Harry Viljoen, Rudolph Strauly, and then I retired before Jake White came in, and then they won the Tri-Nations again. So I was in that gap. So yeah, my title is exactly right, you know, that I was there where I always dreamt of being. It was just in the wrong era.
Things happen for a particular reason, and I'm of the opinion that we should take those opportunities and do the things that we want to do, so that when we get to France, we are thoroughly prepared. There should be no excuses next time.
Here it came. Australia knew it was coming.
A last-minute drop goal right at the end of extra time by Johnny Wilkinson gave England victory in the 2003 Rugby World Cup as they beat Australia 2017 in the final.
England will celebrate long and hard.
Which upset me because I would have wanted anybody else to win except them. But at the time they were the best team in the world, and Johnny Wilkinson was definitely, you know, the key to them surviving, and they had a strong back. And obviously in that World Cup final they put through the drop goal that won it for them. And you know, well into then I think Martin Johnson and rallied the troops around him very nicely. And I really believe that it wasn't for him, I don't think they would have won it.
2003 was a black year for the Springboks, perhaps the blackest ever. But there was a new dawn in 2004. Jake White would become our coach.
You know, my philosophy is quite simple: is if you prepare properly, then things will fall into place.
John Smith would take over as captain.
He understands where I want to go, he understands philosophies of the rugby that I want to play.
We've got a good relationship between each other, which I think is important between a captain and a coach.
And the Springboks would score a great victory in the Tri-Nations.
It's a time to celebrate as Jake and John's Boks down the Wallabies to claim the 2004 Tri-Nations.
Well, Dan, Joost van der Westhuizen's career coming to an end, and I think very few players make a mark as indelible as Joost made in the Springbok jersey.
Collar, you're quite right. Joost van der Westhuizen is the kind of player that Doc Craven would have described as a genius. I think he was often suppressed by coaches that he might even have done more. But you know, at this time, 2003, a really dark year for Springbok rugby, I thought we should lift the spirits with a tribute to Joost van der Westhuizen. He ended his career holding the record for tries. He played 111 games in the Springbok jersey. And at the time he went out, he held the record for Springbok Test caps. So have a look at a really great Springbok.
It's the third ball scrum half at the Westhuizen.
One thing that will always stay with me is my 75 test. Played against All Blacks as well, and then I got the jersey of Jonah Lama. He walked up to me and said, "Well done," and he gave me his jersey.
The truth of the matter is that it wasn't a 7-week World Cup, it was a 4-year World Cup for us. I wasn't always the favourite, and I certainly wasn't always the people's option as captain, and had my moments, but I was a big part of the Springbok Saga, so join me on Wednesday night to watch the Springbok Saga.
This episode of Springbok Saga was brought to you by Castle Lager, the taste that stood the test of time.